Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loki here. Join me today as we tackle a bunch of late summer, early fall garden tasks. So let's go. There is always so much to be done in the garden, pretty much all year long. This time of year, I'm doing a lot of cleanup work. I'm doing a lot of preparing plants to get them overwintered. I'm also collecting a lot of seeds. So I put together a short list of things I want us to tackle today, and I want to go over it with you. Here's our short list. We're going to start with the first one, which is cutting back some Alyssum plants. Alyssum is an annual here where I live in New Hampshire Zone 5B. It is the middle of September. This time of year, my Alyssum plants are looking very tired. These are Alyssum plants that together we started from seed during the winter months. And I've been very good about fertilizing them, deadheading them, and keeping them going. But at this point, they don't look very good. I showed you in a recent video my process for collecting the seeds of Alyssum. What I'll do is I'll put links to videos down in the description below as well as above showing my process for collecting flower seeds as well as starting flower seeds. This flower bed is what I call the old arborvitae bed. It used to have 3 arborvitae in it. I have changed it around over the last few years, and well, the plant that we're going to focus on for today is this one right here. This is Lobularia or Alyssum. You can see that it's still blooming. However, many parts of the plant don't look very good. So for that reason, I want to come in and I want to start removing this plant. I plan to just cut the plant down at the base. In previous years, I've pulled my annual plants out at the end of the season. But during the last few years, I've chosen to cut them down at the base because it just is a lot faster, a lot quicker. And also the roots just break down in the ground, which is good for the soil. I'll be putting the Alyssum clippings in this bucket here. So I just want to gather all the pieces together. And then I'm going to use my hand pruners and I'm going to cut right at the base of the plant. And I'm going to go all the way around. There are certain annuals like Alyssum that self-sow readily, which means if they drop their seeds, I'll have baby seedlings next year. So I'll be spreading the seeds around as well. So I'm just going to continue the same process of cutting the Alyssum plants down at the base, spreading the seeds in the flower bed, and then I'll show you what's next after I'm all done. I have a kitchen strainer inside of a bowl. I want to collect as many of the Alyssum seeds as I can. So what I'm doing is just shaking up the plants so that the seeds as well as the non-seed material, which is called chaff, falls inside of the strainer. And that's a much easier way of getting the seeds from the Alyssum plant. And this is what it looks like, the seed mixed with the non-seed material. I have some Alyssum seed that we collected the other day. We might as well just mix them up. So let's go ahead and pour the contents of what we have from our bowl onto the paper. This is a close-up of what all the seed and non-seed material look like. There are a ton of seeds in here. And I don't mind storing the Alyssum seeds with the non-seed material. To be honest with you, it's such a small seed, it's easier to do it that way. And when the time comes for me to sow the seeds, I don't even bother separating it. I just sow all of it and whatever is going to germinate will germinate. So we finished cutting back the Alyssum plants. The next thing we're going to tackle is collecting some trailing Lobelia seeds. I have a number of trailing Lobelia plants, and they are also considered an annual. They're plants that I started from seed. They don't look good at all. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be cutting them back with my pruners at ground level, and we'll also be collecting their seeds. But first I wanted to bring you in just to show you how pretty the flower is. And I have a number of colors in this flower bed. This is just one of them. It's a vibrant blue color. Just like the Alyssum, when you collect the Lobelia seeds, you want to look at the bottom of the plant, and that's where you're going to find the seed pods. This seed pod here is green color, and that's not a good seed pod. You want to wait until the seed pod is more of a light brown or a tan color. And when you do that, it will release seeds that look very similar to this. They're very, very small, and they're also like a light brown or a tan color. And since the seeds are very small, you just want to be careful because on a windy day, they may fly away. This is just another example of a seed pod that's ready to be harvested. All the trailing lobelia has been cut back, and I have it right next to me in a bucket. While I was cutting it back and feeling a little guilty because the center of them looked good, but the outer parts of them looked very bad, I started wondering to myself, what can I do differently for next year? So I set up a garden goal for myself that I wanted to share with you. And my garden goal is to do better, because I'm usually very good about collecting the seeds, starting the plants from seed, getting them planted out in container pots or in the landscape, fertilizing the plants, but I'm not as good about the pruning and the deadheading of the plants. And that includes not only trailing lobelia, but alyssum as well. So next year I'm going to do better, and if you like, I can bring you along when I make those videos, because maybe you need that motivation too. Maybe you're in the same boat as me where your season is definitely coming to an end, but had you been more diligent about deadheading or pruning certain annuals, then they might still be looking nice for you. Here we are in the middle of September. So I will be better about that next year. Rather than going individual by individual seed pod, that would take me forever. If I only had one plant, I could definitely do that, but I have a ton of plants. So I'm just taking a whole bunch of clippings and shaking them around, moving them around, and trying to get whatever seeds I can. I'm going to do the same process, and once I'm done with the pile, this goes in the compost pile. I'll take another new fresh batch, shake them around, and then I'll show you what the seeds look like in the end. So it's trillion lobelia, and we know it's a mix because we have different ones. So we have a purple and white as well as blue. And then usually on my envelope where I store my seeds, I'll also put the year that I collected the seeds. The seeds are mixed in with the non-seed material, but I'm going to pour the contents out and I'll show you close up what the seeds look like. There are so many ways that you can separate the seed of different plants from the non-seed material. With this one here, I'm just shaking the paper ever so slightly. You can see that the seeds are separating because they're just so much lighter. There will always be little creepy crawlies. That's part of seed collecting. They'll eventually find their way to a new home. So I know it's very hard to see because there's just so much going on here. But anything that's basically like a round, like that one there, those are the seeds. There are so many seeds in here. It's hard for me to just show you the seeds from the non-seed material. You just have to trust me on it. Anything that's around, and there's a whole bunch in there, you can see them all. They're like a dark color. Those are all seeds. Sometimes you'll see some are dark color, some are light color. That's why we collect plenty of seeds, to make sure we have enough. And trust me, we have more than we need. A lot of seeds here. We're going to be inundated with trailing lobelia next year, and I can't wait. So we collected the trailing lobelia seeds, and we also cut back the plants. So we did a 2-for-1 with that deal. I'm going to show you what that space looks like now that the alyssum and trailing lobelia are gone, and then after that, we're going to overwinter some calla lily bulbs. Okay, much better. Again, now our eyes can focus on anything that still looks half decent. Even if they're only going to look half decent for a few more weeks, they look really nice. And we're not looking at a whole bunch of half pretty, half ugly looking plants. And we went ahead and collected the seeds from those plants, which was really nice. So I'm very happy that we started and we finished this project. Calla lilies are not hardy here where I live. So for that reason, I can treat them as an annual and buy them every year, but that gets really expensive. Or I can overwinter them. And by overwintering them, not only do I not have to buy them again, but their bulb, corm, tuber, whatever you want to call it, gets larger and larger every year. So I have a bigger plant, and then I can divide it and get more free plants. I've been overwintering calla lilies for a number of years, and normally you want to wait until a frost has hit the plant, not a hard freeze, but a frost, and then you can go ahead, lift the corms and overwinter them. I made a video before showing you that I was dumping out some of the buckets that I have that had calla lilies in them because I have a ton of them in my yard. And I just can't do that job in one day, so it's going to be over a number of days. And a frost hasn't hit them yet, but the plants have slowed down. In fact, tomorrow night the temperature is going to be 37 degrees Fahrenheit. The plants wouldn't die, but it doesn't matter. I feel like at this point, how much more energy are they going to get here where I live? We could get a frost anytime within the next month, so I might as well start this process slowly, one container pot at a time. So I've had these drying for a number of days. At this point, they're ready for storage. And of course, when I was looking at these, I remembered that we also had pulled out some zonal geraniums that I'm going to be overwintering bare root. It wasn't on my list of things to do, but we're just going to do both of them together very quickly. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the foliage from the top of the plants, and I'm just going to use hand pruners to do the job. I want to make sure I'm not cutting too far down because I don't want to cut into the corm. When it comes to the roots on the bottom, the roots have dried off. What I could do is leave the roots on here, or I can try to remove them. Sometimes you can just tug and the roots will come off. They are not doing that for me. So instead what I'm going to do is just I'm fluffing them up a little bit so that I can see them hanging. And then I can come in with my pruners. And again, I want to be careful. I don't want to cut too close to the corms. And for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to refer to them as bulbs because, again, when you're talking about all these type of plants, they can be tubers, corms, bulbs, rhizomes. And I'm not necessarily doing a perfect job. I just want to get a majority of the roots off. But if I kept the roots on there, that would be fine too. If you've ever bought calla lilies in the springtime, then I'm turning this over just to show you what the bottom looks like. They look kind of like this. Very similar to what you would see when you buy them in the spring, except now it has roots on it. It has a little bit of this growth on the top, but we're just going to leave it like that. I overwinter a lot of my tender summer blooming bulbs, like my dahlias, my calla lilies, my canna lilies. They get overwintered in my unheated garage where it does not freeze. It usually dips down to maybe 37, 38 degrees Fahrenheit during the coldest parts of the winter, but it really doesn't get much colder than that. And for storing them, I like to store them in just a small amount of peat moss inside of a cardboard box. I have made videos showing my process on how I plant calla lily bulbs, but then how I get them ready for overwintering, and also things I check for during the winter months, just to make sure that the bulbs are not drying out. So I'll put links to those type of videos down in the description below. Whenever you dig out your bulbs, there's a chance that they might divide for you automatically, and that's totally fine. But I don't like to force it. I don't want to divide them down right now. I just want them to get ready for winter storage. And these aren't terribly big bulbs. The more you save them from year to year, the bigger they are. In fact, these are ones that I bought just this year. That's why they're pretty small. They're a new variety that I didn't have, so I wanted to add it to my collection. It wasn't on my list of things to do. We're going to do it. So when it comes to the zonal geraniums, I have put them in paper bags before. I've also stored them in cardboard boxes. Since these geraniums are a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, I would rather put them in a cardboard box. But if I had a very large grocery bag, that would work as well. I also have videos showing my process for overwintering geraniums bare root. I'll put links to those videos down below. If you've been watching my videos recently, you might be seeing that I'm doing a lot of these jobs in stages. And honestly, that just works better for me. But if you wanted to, you could definitely overwinter all your geraniums in one day, or overwinter all your calla lilies in one day. This just has been working out better for me, doing a little bit at a time. And I still have room in here for maybe another geranium or two, but for right now, these guys are good. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna close the box. And then what will happen is this box is gonna go down in my unheated basement, where it usually stays around 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll just label the side of the box with zonal geraniums or pelargoniums. There are so many different ways that you can overwinter your calla lilies. Some people actually have them hardy out where they live, so they keep them in the ground. Other people bring them in and maybe they treat them as houseplants. I've never done that. Other people keep them in the pots that they're in and they bring them to their basement or their garage. For me, it's just easier to store a lot of these type of things bare root because it takes a lot less room. I have a cardboard box here with a layer of peat moss in the bottom, and I just labeled it calla lily so I know what's inside the box. And then I can go ahead and place these in there. I do have labels that I kept with these bulbs, so I will be sure to add the labels in here. It doesn't matter which way I put the bulbs. If they were upside down, it's really not a problem. It doesn't matter in terms of storage. I still have room on this side for more bulbs that I'll be putting in here later in the season. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover these bulbs with the peat moss that I have. And the peat moss is very dry. Sometimes when you buy peat moss, it's not so dry. And since this is peat moss that I'm reusing, it's very dusty, very dry. I'm doing this outside because I don't want to inhale any of this. I do have videos that show the whole process on how to overwinter these type of bulbs bare root. I'll link it down below. But I like to add a small thing of paper, give it just the tiniest drink of water, and then I'm going to close it up. This will go into my unheated garage, and then I'll check on it once a month. If it needs a little water, I'll give it a small amount of water. I'll also make sure that none of the bulbs in there are rotting, and if they are, I'll remove those. So I added it on here to make myself feel better. It feels good to check things off. We overwintered the geraniums, and then when it came to the calla lily bulbs, we got those calla lily bulbs ready for overwintering. And I have plenty more that I still need to tend to, but that's the start of that. And now we have collect wax begonia seeds. In the world of seed saving, seed starting, sowing seeds, there are seeds that I consider very easy. Like you can't go wrong with a zinnia or a marigold. So if you're new to sowing seeds, you always want to start with the easiest seeds. Why? Because I want you to be successful. However, if you want to be a little more adventurous, there are seeds that a lot of people struggle with collecting the seeds or sowing the seeds and getting those plants to germinate and then getting those plants to thrive. Begonias fall into that category, but it's not impossible to do. In fact, I've heard from many of you that you've been following along with my channel, that you've collected your own seeds or you bought your own seeds, and that you were successful in growing begonias from seed. I have not bought begonia seeds ever. In fact, I have collected my own seeds from local parks, from people's houses, from plants that I've bought, and then I've been able to start my own begonias from seed ever since. And I have a lot of different colors, and some of the begonias are taller in height, some are shorter in height. Some of them have green leaves, some of them have darker leaves. We're going to go around and we're going to collect the seeds from some of the plants, but we're not going to be cutting the plants back because the plants still look pretty. I have let them go to seed though, and I want to bring you in closer and just show you what I'm talking about. So here's a very pretty one. You can see the flowers, they are a light pink color, and the leaves are a vibrant green color. It's a taller type of begonia for sure. If you compare it to my hands, it's pretty tall. I don't know the variety of this begonia. I've had it for a number of years. Just know that not all begonias are treated the same. This is not a tuberous begonia, this is a wax begonia, but you can collect the seeds from tuberous begonias. When it comes to named plants from certain companies, I can't tell you whether or not you can collect the seeds from those plants. But I want to show you what I do in my garden when it comes to collecting seeds. So these right here are the male parts of the plant. They have the flowers on them. If you had double and single flowers on one plant, usually the double flowers are the male and the single flowers are the female. But none of that really matters. I just want to talk about it a little bit. This right here, these little, they look like little spaceships. These are the female part of the flower, and these are where you're going to find your seeds. You don't want to collect them yet though. See the color? They're like a pink color or a green color. That means they're not ready for picking. So again, we have the flower. And even though there's a flower here, if you look behind this flower, I just pulled it off, that's the female part. The seeds will form in there, but they're not ready yet. But look over here. We see some that are more of a brown color. Let's go ahead and collect those. They look more papery, and definitely the color is brown. That is what you want to wait for when it comes to collecting your seeds. Now look at the difference in color. This, I pulled it off, but I can't save this. I'm going to have to throw this away. Even if it eventually turns brown in color, it's not going to produce seeds that will be viable. You have to wait until they look like this, when they look like this on the plant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to collect the seed pods from any of these begonia plants where the flowers are a light pink color, but where the leaves are a green color. This is definitely a plant that you don't need a colander for. I'm going to show you why in a minute, but I put it on a piece of paper, all the seed pods, and as soon as I did that, the seeds started to release themselves, and I'll show you that. But I did label it so I can remember. Wax begonia, it's a tall, light pink color flower, green leaf in the year I collected them. So if I move this aside, it almost looks like cinnamon. I mean, look at the size of my finger next to that. Each one of those little specks of dust will produce a plant, a nice large plant. I have really zoomed right in. I want you to see how many seeds there are. Literally thousands. We only needed one seed pod, and I collected like 6 or 7 of them. So look at how small those seeds are next to my hand, or next to my finger, I should say. That's how small they are. So that's why it can be kind of a hard plant to start from seed. But is it impossible? No. And I have videos that show you how I start my begonias from seed. When it comes to releasing the seeds from each of the seed pods, it's really easy to do. What you do is just hold it in your fingers like this. And I'm just basically shaking it around a little. I'm pulling it apart and I'm shaking it. Let's do another one together. Trust me when I say you will not get every single seed out of these seed pods, and that's okay. We have plenty. So I will end up throwing away any of the non-seed materials, which is again called the chaff, and I will save these seeds. I'll wait about a week because I want to make sure that the seeds are fully dry. I can fold my piece of paper in half, and then I can funnel the seeds off of the paper into what I'm going to store them in, which is a small little bag. This is just an example of how big the bag is. It's pretty small. So this is large enough though to be able to put all the seeds into there. I have some more wax begonias up along my driveway on the right. I love this one. This has a darker leaf to it. It's a shorter habit, or it generally is a shorter habit. Some of them, for whatever reason, are a taller habit in the back, but regardless. And it has a white flower on it. It has a nice contrast. I was pretty diligent about deadheading all my wax begonias earlier in the season, but I stopped because I want to actually start collecting their seeds. That's just a close-up of how beautiful this little white flower is. And again, you can see the leaves are a little bit darker color, a reddish color. This one right here is an example of a female flower. So you can see in the back there, it's starting to create the seed pod, but it's not ready for us to pick because of its color, it's green. However, these little guys, these little papery guys, they are ready because they're a brown color. So let's go ahead and pull that off. This one is not ready to be picked, and now that we've pulled it off, it's no good. It's not going to produce viable seeds. But because we left some on there to let them brown up, they now have seeds in them that are ready for collecting. I'm going to do the same thing. Let me collect the seeds, as many as I can, off of these plants, and then let's get them ready to be dried. Usually when you buy begonia seeds, they are pelleted. And for good reason. I mean, they're so tiny. Like I mentioned earlier, I've never bought these seeds. I collected them years ago. I've been able to successfully grow them and just keep collecting seeds from them. I encourage you to go to the garden center and look for plants that you want to collect the seeds from. Not every plant that you buy or that you see will create seeds. Some are bred not to create seeds. But now you know what to look for when it comes to begonias that are going to seed. It might be that the plant created seed pods, but they didn't create any seeds. Again, some plants are bred to do that. But I know for a fact that these ones here, they're usually like the bedding begonias. They're like no name to them. They will create the seeds for you, and you'll have plants that you can just keep growing forever without having to pay any more money for those plants. And like I mentioned earlier, it's definitely a hard plant to grow from seed, but it's not impossible. So I just wanted to show you again some of the seeds that we collected. And this wax begonia has white flowers, dark leaf. It's on the shorter side, and the year we collected the seeds. And the seeds, again, they look like, basically they look like cinnamon. And that's my finger next to each little seed. I'm just gonna zoom you in. I want you to see this. It's pretty crazy how small they are. You literally only need one seed pod and you will have enough seeds to last you a long time. So we're in my backyard and this is what I call the rose garden. It has a number of different kinds of roses in here that are starting to go by for the season, but it also has a bunch of wax begonias. I mean, at this point, you're all pros. You know what to look for. It's the same deal. We have the flowers here that are white, and then we also have the female flowers that are creating the seeds, but if they're green, they're not ready. And then down here is a seed pod that is brown, and it's ready for us to collect the seeds from it. I'll be the first one to admit I don't need this many seeds, but can you really ever have enough? And what if by mistake one batch is not viable for whatever reason? It's better to collect more than less. You're all going to be pros by the end of this video, and I guarantee you some of you are going to go out looking around in parks, at neighbors' houses, family members, to see if their begonias have gone to seed. I mean, I'm hoping you do that, because this winter I will be showing you my process for growing begonias from seed. I did it last winter, and I'm hopeful that some of you followed along, and maybe some of you were successful, and maybe some of you weren't, but I'm hoping that you'll try again. While I'm collecting these seeds, I'm noticing they're opening up. They're definitely dropping the seeds in my hands, and it's a windy day. So I think we have enough here. I can always come back and collect more on a different day. I mean, we really don't even need more than what we have here. So like right there, you can see that they're starting to drop their seeds, and it's a windy day, so we're going inside. Okay, last begonia. So it's a wax. By the way, I have had success with tuberous begonias, collecting the seeds and starting them from seed. So it is possible to do that with certain varieties. We have a white flower, green leaf. I'd call it tall in the year we collected it. And as soon as I put these seed pods down on the paper, I mean, I don't think I need to go and get any more seeds. And it's the same process. I mean, the seeds literally pretty much just fell out. But if you wanted to, you could come in here and do that. And when you do that, the seeds come out. So now if a frost came and took out my begonia plants, I wouldn't care. Or if I needed to pull out my begonia plants, I wouldn't care because I've collected the seeds from them. I thought more about this one right here. It was the final thing that I wanted to do. We are going to do this on a different day. I like setting garden goals, and I like to write them on a piece of paper. Again, I don't do it every day, but I try to do it every few days, especially if I know I have a number of small tasks to tackle. And you saw we added something onto the list, but then we also removed something off of the list. It's totally okay to do. The big thing is I feel really good, we got a lot done, and I'm looking forward to the next project I tackle in my yard. You save a lot of money when you collect your own seeds and you start your own plants from seed. I'm like anyone else. I absolutely love buying plants from the store. I also love to buy my own seeds. But there's something really fun about collecting your own seeds and starting plants from seeds that you collected yourself. Let me know if you're like me. When someone comes to your house to look at your plants, do you feel like just saying, and that's a plant that I started from seed, and it's from seed that I collected myself? I don't know, there's just that sense of satisfaction I get with that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.